We talked all week about who we were going to face adversity. We're coming to a place that we haven't won in a really long time against a team that, you can look at all the banners they have up. They've won a bunch of state championships here. Hell of a head coach, hell of a staff. And tried to just tell them that it was going to be coming, so be ready for it. And we had a little bit more adversity than I think any of us anticipated, but they responded, and every time it popped up, they kept coming.
I definitely felt bad about those turnovers, but my teammates and coaches, they were just right there for me, patting me on the back, telling me about it next time. And even with 2 minutes left, Coach Barnes came up to me and said, we're going to get another opportunity. We got 3 timeouts. We're going to get the ball back. We need you back in this game. So yeah. And saw him downfield on the break and just threw it and hope for the best. And he made a move and got into the end zone. So yeah.
Could you believe it?
I couldn't believe it, no, but now I can, yeah.
It was the craziest 14-time game I've ever played in my life.
It just shows what this team is made of and what we do, what our coaches tell us, what our leaders say. So it's just Staples football right there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bully. With me, as always, is your favorite co-host and mine, Peter Berguaga. Pete, what's up?
I think I could argue maybe the best co-host. I don't know if there's any other co-hosts.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed your Saturday off while I was slogging it away at the mess that was St. Joseph Staples. A wild, crazy game, as you saw at the top of the show, but certainly one that had a lot of people scratching their heads about what to make of that mess. Won by Staples on not a walk-off, but it was basically a walk-off touchdown pass by Nick Weil to Shane Sandrew, and one of the craziest games I've seen. 10 total turnovers. We'll get to that. But first, before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. You're on Apple, or if you're on Spotify, make sure you tell everybody how great a job we're doing. We appreciate it, especially you, Adam Behrens. We know you're a big fan, and hopefully we can get this out on time for you tonight. Because I know he anxiously sits by the computer as he's going over film, trying to wait for our recap. So thanks, Adam. Pete, really kind of a crazy week. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here. We're getting down to it's almost playoff time. Can you feel it? The chill, maybe for now at least, is back in the air as we head down the stretch to November.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think. You and I are already planning, okay, when are we doing this show? When are we recording this? When we have to get the Thanksgiving capsules, we got to get, and all of a sudden you kind of we kind of blinked and we're here at the end, and a lot of teams are playing 8 games, one really big week left, and then on to Thanksgiving, and I don't know how it happened so fast.
Yeah, it comes fast every year, and then you're like, oh god, you're in a slog every week, and then you get here, you're like, wow, that went fast. But this is the last full Friday night football week of the season. We have one more after that. It's limited because a lot of teams take their buys to get ready for Thanksgiving week, which is, everyone, more and more teams over the years are playing closer to Thanksgiving night or maybe even earlier, but they get that 1 week there to kind of recharge their batteries for the stretch run. I mean, you definitely have the Mayor's Cup between Hall and Connor. Neither are going to the playoffs, so that's a big one there. And you also have Windsor Bloomfield that week. It's just become the new big game before Thanksgiving, a little appetizer, if you will. But there's kind of some crazy stuff going on. This week, though, however, is the first week. This week is the NEPSAC Bowl week, and we learned on Sunday where there are local prep school teams were going to be. And fortunately for everybody in Connecticut, and my add, Notre Dame fans across the maybe tri-state or New England area, there we got Brunswick versus Choate. Brunswick finished 7-1. They won the Northeast Prep League. They were a 3-way tie. They get to face Choate, which was undefeated, won the Founders League. And as it turns out, there are all 4 kids who are committed to play at Notre Dame, who will play their football in Connecticut, are all going to be playing in this game. Pete, you got to talk to a bunch of them in the preseason from Brunswick. All of them have been great. 2 are actually from Connecticut, Ethan Long from Milford and Matt Augustine, the great lineman from Greenwich. We had Blake Hebert transfer from Massachusetts come in, and he was great in their clinching victory over Williston, Northampton. He ran for 45-yard touchdown run, and then a 99-yard touchdown run that punctuate that 43-7 victory. And then Choate obviously has Will Black, probably one of the top linemen in the country right now from Ontario. We saw him last week in the shoutouts. He had a touchdown on a screen pass. So a really cool matchup, and I'm really excited for it. Can't wait for Saturday. But you got to get to know those guys, Pete, and it should be fun on Saturday.
Yeah, and speaking as a Notre Dame fan, I am ecstatic that Blake switched his commitment from Clemson to Notre Dame earlier this year. I'm really tired of this grad transfer quarterback carousel that the Fighting Irish have been doing for the last couple of years. But I digress. No, it's sick. I mean, look, Ethan Long played at St. Joe's. I remember covering him in the Rumble and Trumbull. He had 2 picks, I think, his sophomore year. It turned out to be his last year at St. Joe's. But, yeah, I got to meet them during the prep school caravan thing last year.
Yeah.
Well, not meet them, but, like, get to talk to them and spend time with them. And, I mean, these are 3 really smart kids who are, I mean, just amazing football players. And the fact that, like, we're going to have 4 kids going to Notre Dame from here, it's pretty incredible. With 2 being Connecticut kids. I mean, that's wild. I know Ethan and Maddie are really close. I did a story on the 2 of them last spring, and Blake the way they talked about Blake, he kind of came in and was like, he fit right in with them. So I gotta hope Ethan and Maddie were kind of plugging away at him a little bit. Like, hey man, like, I mean, what about South Bend? Like, I mean, Death Valley is apparently amazing. I've never been down there in South Carolina, but I mean, I've been to South Bend, man. I mean, it's beautiful. And hey, come and play with Ethan and I, Maddie might have said, or vice versa. So it's nice that he was able to switch over. And then obviously Will Black, I mean, a top recruit going to Notre Dame. Also, he's from Canada. I mean, it's very cool. The whole thing is just very cool. And, we were talking to a couple of people a couple of weeks ago trying to be like, how do we get Brunswick and Choate playing in this game together just to see all those players? And it worked out.
Yeah. It worked out. I mean, I don't know how they really do it. I think they had a ranking system this year. It was a 3-way tie.
Do they not have a point system that that updates on the fly only when people submit results?
They don't have that. It's
they have an RPI system that apparently ranks schools based on what divisions they should or should not be in, depending on how many schools are in or out of their co-op?
Well, yeah. Speaking of which, that game will be at Choate class of 76 field on Saturday at 1 p.m. I think it had to do with the fact that Choate already played Exeter last year, which finished top of that division, and then Williston had already played Brunswick the end of the year, so they had to play. Choate had to play Brunswick, so it worked out great for everyone. But as you allude to, there was some other crazy news quickly that we have to get to that kind of caught us by surprise. If you remember when Stafford a month ago played Mount Hope, Rhode Island, not in an alliance game. It was the Stafford had a bye week because of the teams that Pequot couldn't fill all their. I guess they couldn't fill their schedule with all the Pequot because they had a vacancy or something. But they ended up playing Mount Hope, and Mount Hope took the Rhode Island CIAC, the Rhode Island Interscholastic Division, to the court, Pete, last week, right before their playoffs, which begins this week. What over that game over Stafford?
It was the game. It was the day of the playoff game. The playoffs were set. They were supposed to. Oh, well, they did play Friday, but they were in court. The athletic director was on the stand, according to the Providence Journal and their reporters who were there covering it. And the coach was going to be called. This is going on Friday at like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Looking to get an injunction basically to stop the playoffs so they can.
Yeah, so basically Mount Hope is a Division III team, and I think they were ranked 5th or 6th in the playoff rankings when it came out, because the RIIL, the RIIL, decided that Stafford should have been ranked as a Division IV team, so the way that their RPI points worked lesser, because it was a Division IV team. But Mount Hope argued that because Stafford the co-op comes from 3 different schools, that it should be viewed as a Division II school. If it was viewed as a Division II school, that win would have given Mount Hope enough points to be the number 1 team in Division III. Mm-hmm. Now, all of this is going on as teams are preparing to get on the bus to go play in the game.
It's like Friday Night Lights. Jeez.
Yeah, It was insane. And kind of watching it kind of happen on Twitter. I know we had a story, but I was following along with the reporters from the Providence Journal. And it like kind of came down to the wire where like they were already on the bus before the ruling came down. And the ruling came down and basically was like, nothing, we're not changing anything. Like, now put a little blame or not really point fingers is kind of on Mount Hope because they were instructed to put in all this paperwork at the beginning of the year. Again, according to the Providence Journal, that they did not do. And because they didn't, they were supposed to put in the proper paperwork to have Stafford viewed as a Division II or whatever. And I guess they just didn't do the paperwork or it didn't go through or whatever happened. They kind of like just the kids were on the way to the bus. And then on the flip side, Mount Hope lost in the first round.
Yeah.
So
maybe they knew they were going to win that game. Let's see if we can be the number 1 seed. I guess they had like a handshake deal or just a kind of like a verbal agreement. Someone from the RIIL was going to, we'll take care of that. It didn't happen. That was their argument. But like, I think what they should have done was they should have run your boy, from a Stafford down to go on the stand.
Bring Brian to the stand. I'm sure he would have loved that.
Put him on the stand and be like, Division II, what are you, nuts?
Yeah, Stafford is a Class S school, yes. Even as a co-op. I'm all for it. Look, I don't understand how some of these things work because we've had out-of-state teams come in before and how they're going to register, how they're going to count. I mean, up until a couple of weeks ago, Bishop Hendricken didn't even have a record on the CIAC site for prep in Greenwich. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know, but I think I can say with such certainty that just because Stafford is from 3 towns, they're not, and they're a Class S school. And they're a very good Class S school, but let's not sit here and try and get added points because they come from 3 schools. Because if you want Mount Hope, if you want to play a team, you want to play a double L team or an L team, call the Alliance.
Call the Alliance. Al Carbone's got a spot for you. You can play,
Mount Hope.
I don't know,
Come and play.
NFA.
No, come and play Fairfield Prep. Come play Fairfield Prep.
I was going to say NFA. There's a Division I school for you, right?
There it is, right there.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so some crazy stuff happening across. It never, that stuff.
But just credit, and I want to say this, not that anyone, maybe someone will send it to, but the reporter at the Providence Journal did, it was pretty incredible how they were covering that as it kind of was happening in real time and all that stuff. So they did a really good job. So shout out to them.
Absolutely. And back here in CIAC land, it's status quo in the top 10, but there were some crazy games, and we're getting down to it. Some big results that did happen maybe outside of the top 10. Let's just get right to it because there's lots to talk about. We got all the playoff points to talk about too. Some good stuff, and away we go into week 10. My goodness, it's been crazy. So, starting over at West Haven, sticks in there at number 10. They rolled past Brantford 49-0. Cavani Daniels had 3.5 sacks, and boy, Pete Kadir Dembele had the Wake Forest bound lineman had 2.5 sacks. And he caught a touchdown pass. We'll get to that later, I guess. The Westies have allowed just 1 touchdown in the last 3 games. They face Cheshire at home Friday before getting Fairfield Prep Thanksgiving Eve. Number 9 is Brookfield. Had a big game with rival Barlow. Another big test to them, and they passed it with flying colors, defeating the 2-time defending Class AA champions 27-0. Michael Walters ran 12 times for 118 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Chase Sylvia and Matt Ackerley led the defense in the shutout victory. The Bobcats are virtually assured a spot in Class M, but now they must face number 8, Massac, in a massive game for SWC supremacy. I guess this is kind of like, Newtown's going to have something to say about it, but this is kind of to see who's the better of these two. It's going to be Friday night in Monroe. Big game with a lot of seating involved. Be there. So that's number 9 Brookfield and number 8 Massac, which beat Weston 56-6. Getting over to number 7 is Staples, which here was the big game, Pete, this weekend. Defeated St. Joseph 14-10. in a crazy game. Shane Sandru called it the craziest 14-10 game he's ever been a part of. And it was everything that and more. Let's go to Dowling Field. Gorgeous Friday afternoon, fall Friday afternoon. St. Joseph coach Joe Delvecchia was thrilled, must have been thrilled, to get his quarterback H.C. Jones back after 2.5 games out. He got knocked out of the Darien game and it missed the last two, and St. Joseph struggled to score. In this one, at least a little sigh of relief. All right, now maybe we can get some points on the board. And from the get-go, he struck early, throwing a 55-yard pass to Jake Rios. Actually, Rios did most of the work here, catching it on the left sideline, going all the way down for a touchdown, 7-0. But then the parade of turnovers began, and nobody was safe. Everybody caught the bug. Staples' Justin Halkey recovered a muff St. Joseph punt at the 16-yard line, which set up Coley Goldman's 3-yard run to tie the score. A 47-yard field goal attempt by Jake Rios was blocked in the second quarter, but the turnovers, man, they kept coming. 4 for St. Joseph and 6 for Staples, 10 all told. And all 6 of Staples' turnovers, Pete, came from quarterback Nick Weil. Had a nightmarish afternoon. He fumbled 3 times. He threw 3 interceptions. But the Staples defense, man, wow, what a backing band, led by Davis Crandall and Charlie Leahy, among others, answered the call. After Rios kicked a 34-yard field goal to put St. Joseph up 10-7 after 3, the Wreckers did not allow another point, giving them a chance. Then came the game's final couple of minutes. We saw 3 turnovers in 4 plays. Weil was picked off by Jason Pagano, who had fumbled earlier on the punt, which led to the touchdown, with 1:51 left, sealing the game for St. Joseph. Nope! On the next play, St. Joseph coughed the ball up right back, recovered by Davis Crandall, giving Staples one more chance, but nope! On the next play from scrimmage, Weil trying to make something happen on a scramble. Finn Kilmartin, who had fumbled on the last play for St. Joseph, jarred the ball loose, and Lameek Black covered for the Hogs, all but sealing the game. But nope, Staples forced the punt, and now, truly, the Wreckers had their last chance, and with 47 seconds remaining, this time, Nick Weil turned hero when he found his pal Shane Sandru wide open for a 42-yard touchdown pass with 47 seconds remaining, giving the Wreckers a 14-10 lead. And just a good measure, Davis Crandall sacked Jones and jarred the ball loose. Cody Goldman recovered to end it. 4 turnovers in the last 2 minutes of the game and a touchdown. Just a wild win by Staples. And here's Nick Weil, which, man, 6 turnovers. I don't know many players who can come back from that. This kid was like the Energized Bunny, you know?
After every turnover, it was definitely like just looking at myself, like, what am I doing here? And I mean, I just had a lot of support from my teammates that really just gave me like that extra hope into getting the job done. I mean, 6 turnovers is a lot, as you said. I've never had that happen to me, but I think just like the support from my teammates, coaches, really helped me get over that.
It just shows what this team is made of and what we do, what our coaches tell us, what our leaders say. So it's just Staples football right there.
It was the craziest 14-10 game I've ever played in my life, and it was so much fun to be a part of.
We talked all week about we were going to face adversity. We're coming to a place that we haven't won in a really long time against a team that, I mean, you can look at all the banners they have up. They've won a bunch of state championships here. Hell of a head coach, hell of a staff, and tried to just tell them that it was going to be coming, so be ready for it. And we had a little bit more adversity than I think any of us anticipated, but they responded, and every time it popped up, they kept coming.
You also heard from Shane Sandru, Charlie Leahy, and Coach Adam Behrens. And wow, Pete, just a crazy game for Staples pulling that one out. St. Joseph, I mean, look, they're very good. We've seen them be really good. They just can't get out of their own way. They had every right to win that game, but just couldn't score against a pretty good Staples defense. I know afterwards, Joe Delvecchia was just crestfallen. He's like, we went toe-to-toe with Greenwich. We went toe-to-toe with Darien. We went toe-to-toe with all these teams who could be number 1 in the state right now, and we have nothing to show for it. But listen, they got some work to do, but they should be all right. You know, they have Trumbull on Thanksgiving, and who they get this week?
Yeah, Danbury.
Danbury this week, which, you know, they're favored. They should be favored to win those games. Who knows, though? Nothing is given for St. Joe's, but what a job by Staples, man. I mean, and their defense. You've seen them. I've seen them. I mean, Dave Crandall. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. The defense is, I think we said it last time, this team was, last episode, this team was such an offensive juggernaut last year. We kind of forgot about how good their defense was. And their defense is really stepping up this year. But I really got to tip my cap to Nick Weil. I know what I would have been doing if I was a high school age kid who had those turnovers. I would have been inconsolable on the bench. Really credit to him to going out there. And, all those things kind of get washed away when you win the game.
Yeah, that just shows you got to stick to it, never give up, never say die. That is what Adam
Goonies.
Goonies never say die, and that's what they said. It's Staples football is what Charlie Leahy said. That's Staples football all the way right there. So really nice job by them. They are right in the they're looking at a pretty good spot in the Glastonbury playoffs. Going back to the top 10, number 6 is Newtown. Now speaking of crazy victories. We have been killing, and rightly so, Newtown's schedule all year long. Now, granted, not really their fault. Who knew that, in order, Southington, Stafford, or Shelton were not going to be good this year? They were all playoff teams last year. The Alliance stacked it up on them, and none of them will be going to the playoffs this year. And so Newtown just isn't getting the points. Everyone kind of wondering, what is this team? While the rest of the SWC kind of goes back and forth in a game of, can you top this? Now, finally, 3 games left. They get all the big ones, Newtown, including this one on Friday against Bunnell. It was a wild game. Ryan Schoffstall threw for 400 yards, 200 to Jayden Taylor, and the Nighthawks buried the Bulldogs 60-29. What happened in this one? Newtown was up 22-21 after one, which was nutty enough. 43 combined points. Bunnell did a nice job keeping pace with special teams. Roddy Ricketts returned a kickoff for a score, and then after a Newtown touchdown, Bunnell got a short kitty run by KK Smalls, and then Nate Brandon returned a kickoff fumble, 24 yards to get within that 1 point after the first quarter. But beginning with a 49-yard strike from Schoffstall to Taylor, Newtown proceeded to score 38 straight points, going up 51-21 at halftime. Cole Stockwell had a pick 6. Nick Pavia had a pair of scores. Goodness gracious. And afterwards, Taylor just, saying that, hey, guys, we've been here all year. Granted, Pete, Bunnell's it's down TJ Turnage, and Berto Torres also didn't play. But still, what a performance by Newtown. My goodness.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about how good Newtown is. We know the guys that are good, but they had to go out and show it. Like, look, it's not rocket scientists didn't need to figure out that Jayden Taylor is one of the best wide receivers in the state. I told you that last year. But we needed to see Newtown go out and do it, and they did it, and then some. And look, this is still a really good Bunnell team. Like you mentioned, they were missing some guys, but 51 points in the first half. Whoo-wee. Newtown is here. I think they woke up a lot of people in the state of knowing how good that they're going to be. And here's the thing. They got to go right back at it again. Massac at the end of the year is not going to be an easy game. So be happy, turn around. You got two more games to finish the season unbeaten, and that last one against Massac, we're all going to be paying attention.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game. Can't wait for that one. For maybe, if depending on how Massac handles Brookfield, if they do it, maybe for the de facto SWC title, who knows, or whatever. But they played Barlow this week, and as we mentioned, Barlow's sinking fast. Doesn't look like they're going to get to defend their title, but we'll get to that in a second. Just wrapping up the top 5 here in the poll. Greenwich rips past Ridgefield 38-0. Hector Lopez ran for 208 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Cardinals continue their march up the Class LL playoff standings. Number 4 is New Canaan, which needed to rally a bit past McMahon 50-19. That sounds weird. But your boy, Jermel Bynum, tied the state record with 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns and caught up touchdown pass and had a sack. But New Canaan rallied behind Luke Robinson, who was 11 for 12 for 188 yards and 4 scores. Andrew Esposito caught 7 of those for 153 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Coach Lou Marinelli, and it was Adam Behrens who actually said this, that is insane. 400th career victory. He's been doing it since 1982, at least in Connecticut, or 81, in Connecticut. 400th career victory, and he's still at the top of his game. They are the 2-time defending champions, and a pretty good bet to at least get to the final and go for a third, Pete. But we love Coach Marinelli, man. It's just amazing.
Dude, I don't think I've done anything 400 times in my life. Like I don't. Maybe I've had. I probably had 400 glasses of water. Probably more than that. But I'm just saying, like, to do something 400 coaching 400 games is insane.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure. There's so much outside. In football. So much pressure. There's so much outside noise, so much nonsense you have to deal with to not only coach 400 games, but to then win 400 games after coaching, 5 or 6 something. That's incredible.
Yeah. Amazing job by him. We, I remember when Coach Ed McCarthy broke the record. I think it was at the time. It was in that 2014. I think it was like 320 something, 325 or 6. But and then Louis came back a couple years later, broke that again, and he hasn't missed the playoffs since 2005. So not only is he getting 10 games a year, he's getting 13. A couple times he had 15. So certainly getting to the playoffs and having some success has really helped Buchanan. And then plus he's just well supported down there. The whole community loves him. And why not? He's just an all-time great. So that is number 4.
But next up is 400 wins in Connecticut.
Yeah.
That's next up.
That's the next one. So yeah, that's right. Because he started at Mamaroneck, I believe. That's not very far around the corner, if I'm not correct. No. But you could do it this year, probably. Who knows?
Number 3 is Darien, which beat Bridgeport Central 49-0. No surprises there. Number 2 is Han.
I got to see Han for the first time in person at the Notre Dame West Haven at Veterans Memorial Field Friday night. Notre Dame, as we mentioned last week, Jekyll and Hyde. Which team would show up and carry this team that's trying to get into the Class L playoffs? It's hanging around despite losing to Guilford. They beat Cheshire. It's just one of those weird teams, and would they have enough to knock Hand off? I certainly thought they might, and they played well considering, but Hand's defense, Pete, just like Staples, is just so good. The Tigers intercepted 3 passes, including Ken Pompili's clutch pick at the goal line to end the first half as the Tigers pulled out a 25-0 victory. Quinton O'Day had a really nice TD catch from Paul Candrelli, and he also had one of the 3 interceptions. Candrelli ran for a score, and sophomore Luca Boyce, man, watch this kid, had one of the nicest TD runs all year. A 35-yard adventure through tackle land before breaking loose and busting loose for a 35-yard touchdown. Hand is basically, I think unofficially, they clinched a playoff spot in Class M. They are 8-0. And Windsor defeated your boys 42-3 over Platte as they continue their unbeaten season at 8-0. As we mentioned, they're going to get Bloomfield not too far down the road. So, Pete, that is the top 10. No Fairfield Prep. Which,
I can't with this nonsense. I'm voting Prep 5.
I got
Hand 4. Prep needs to be in this top 10. They are playing. I got them ahead of Greenwich.
Yeah, me too.
And I there's a little bit of me. I'm not going to move them over Hand because I was there and I watched Hand beat them. But like, there's a little me that's like, I think Prep can run with New Canaan and Darien.
Yeah. You know what I did? I moved Newtown way up. I think I have Newtown at 5 and Prep at 4. I dumped a lot of these teams down. I bumped Greenwich, Canaan, even Staples. I put them below. So we'll see. We'll see. Darien, I have at number 2. Sure. They only lost by what? Inches.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pete.
Those inches could be the difference between being the number 1 and number 2 team at the end of the year.
My goodness, that whole.
If Windsor wins the state title and Darien wins out, even though Darien, you could argue, might have a harder road to winning a state title, you can't vote Darien over Windsor. And those inches, it's like Al Pacino said, any given Sunday. Right? Those inches can be the difference between winning and losing.
Yep.
And being the number 1 team, the number 2 team in the Final Four. And that's going to be wild if that happens.
That's a movie I haven't seen in a while. I got to watch that movie.
That movie rocks.
The movie rocks. The one thing that bugs me about it is that when they play the final championship game where'd they play that? Indoors, like at Pontiac or something? Where'd they play that game? Anyway, the lights are so low. It's like, this is not.
Well, yeah, because there weren't fans in the stands.
I know.
It was movie magic, Sean. It was movie magic.
Now they would have put CGI guys. That needed a CGI. Or they need to put some cardboard cutouts. But the lights are so low, it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? To me, I'm like, wait, punt's gonna hit those big glass balls of a light you got up there. Crazy. Anyway, that's it. I haven't watched it.
It might be. Is it my favorite football film? It might be my favorite football film. It might be.
I don't know. What's my favorite football film?
Like, growing up, I loved Rudy, but like, you grow up and you kind of like, yeah, it's a cool story, but like, it's a kid's movie. You know, Remember the Titans? I really like the football in that movie, but when you start to realize the real story behind it, it's basically a Class L school playing in the Class S division because they combined so late. So like, no duh, they went 12-0 and won the championship.
I cannot.
I know.
I cannot.
We could do a whole show.
Remember the Titans is such corny writing. I can't take it. Rudy, I absolutely loved it. Jerry Goldsmith's score. You know, John Favreau is in it. I mean, Sean Astin,
Vince Vaughn.
However, it's just total BS. The whole story is just crap. Like, Joe Montana went on and said, like, don't believe everything you see in the movies. Because he was on that team. He was a sophomore. He's like, nah, that didn't happen. They didn't all give up their jersey. They didn't all do that. Dan Devine was like trying to actually get him in. So it's crap. But, you know, whatever.
Is there any other better football movies? I mean, I love Varsity Blues. I mean, Cheshire's own James Vanderbeek. But
that's a great.
I don't know if that's an appropriate movie to talk about.
My favorite, all the right moves.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, Craig T. Nelson before we became coach.
Ooh, speaking of football movies with Tom Cruise. Yeah. Jerry Maguire. Yeah, it's not really a football movie, but like,
it's good.
Show Me the Money.
That's no one talks about that movie much anymore.
I love
Jerry
that movie.
Maguire.
You know, it's a really bad football movie.
Piece. What's that?
Draft Day with Kevin Costner. Very bad movie. Very bad movie. Always.
Jerry Maguire was classic. It was, but it's very dated in the sense that it's just a snapshot of what the '90s were like. You know, in that sense, I love it because
Show Me the Money.
Yeah,
human head weighs 10 pounds.
Renee Zellweger and Cuba Gooding Jr. who went nuts.
Jay Moore. Jay Moore. That's a good movie.
Jay Moore, yeah, he's great. Bob Sugar, love it. Love his character. This is real, Jerry. Say something. He goes, wow, how come you don't do that to the quarterback? How come you don't do that? He tries to give him a hug. Bob Sugar, great character.
Ooh, The Replacements. The Replacements might be my favorite sports. Football movie.
Yeah.
I think The Replacements might be my favorite.
How about The Longest Yard?
Movie. The original.
The original.
Some of the ones you're going to be watching this will be like, oh, the one with Adam Sandler? No, the original with Burt Reynolds.
What is that movie with Helen Hunt, the quarterback princess? What movie?
I don't know. That I don't know.
She played quarterback. What is that movie? Helen Hunt. Anyway, all right, enough of that. Tell us what your favorite movies are.
I think we named every football movie.
I mean, there are tons.
Yeah.
If you have your favorite,
drop it in the comments.
So, Pete, let's look at the standings. A lot happened. Lots of crazy games. We're going to try and run it down. Now, we don't know really who's unofficially clinched. We can kind of make a projection, but it's still 3 games out in some spots and 2 games out in most. I think next week you're going to get a real good look where Mike Florinabado and I and maybe even Ned Griffin will get together and figure out who's actually unofficially clinched yet. But you have to really look at the math, and it's just not as not as easy as it once was. But let's take a look at this. Let's start at Class S, where Ansonia defeated Woodland in a wild game, Pete, 50-28. It was actually Woodland led for most of this game. And forced Ansonia to answer every time, and it did just that. Quintez Whittle, who Tom Brockett talked up at the beginning of the year, had to step up because Matteo Sorrentino went down early, and Quintez Whittle answered the call. He had 294 yards rushing and 4 scores. And he also threw a touchdown pass as the Chargers, I mean, don't call it a comeback, pulled away after being down 7 late in the second half. So Woodland dips briefly out to number 9. They're 5-3. They got Derby and Seymour left, and the teams above them are going to need to win to keep pace because they're waiting in the wings. And Sonia's number 1. Capital Prep's defense, Pete. You know, that's another one. We can't really doubt them anymore. They kept Granby Canton to just 8 points and a 14-8 victory. It feels like every week it's 14-8 with Capital Prep. They have Hashim Jones, who's one of the best offensive players in the state. Ran 19 times for 182 yards, but he doesn't score much, you know? A lot of teams keep him out of the end zone, but Tafari Dawes was the hero in this one.
15 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 6 tackles for a loss. Ansonia and Cat Prep looking like the top 2 teams right now. Cromwell, Portland, interesting. We're going to talk with Sal Morello, their coach, on the Coach's Corner this week. So please check that out. You got East Catholic, Bloomfield, Stonington had a really big win this week over Griswold Wheeler. They got Killingly and Wyndham left. So neither of those games are going to be very easy at all. And in fact, if you ask me right now, I would say Stonington finished 6-4. So then you have HK, Valley Regional, and Coventry left. Possibly you should win both of those. Then you got Northwest Catholic is asked to play East Catholic on Thanksgiving Eve. So that'll be a really interesting one. A chance here for Woodland to get up. I mean, Valley Regional, it's going to be tough for Valley Regional and even your boy Stafford down there. But that's where Class S stands right now. I would say Ansonia and Cap Rep, I'm pretty sure, have clinched in this one if the other 2 7-1 teams have not. I'm pretty sure it's very close at least. But those top 2 are definitely in. But, man, Ansonia, Pete.
Dude, you lose a guy like Sorrentino and you're still able to put up a 50 spot. You hope he's okay and you hope he comes back because Ansonia at their best is a fun team to watch. But Quintez Whittle, your boy, he is lights out. I mean, I've seen him against Watertown and against Holy Cross. Like, they get the ball on their backs to the end zone, and 2 plays later he's in the end zone, and you watch it in amazement of just how good he is.
Quintez Whittle and Ansonia versus Cap Prep in a potential Class S final. Say anything so. And not to do it, not to put everyone out. Yeah, but that'd be a great one. So, Class SS, very interesting development here as Wyndham defeated Waterford 18-14, toppling the Lancers from the unbeaten ranks. Sophomore Francisco Alvarado's interception at the 12-yard line with 6:43 remaining set up the Whippets winning drives, 11 plays, 88 yards, and they went ahead for good on a 16-yard touchdown by another sophomore, Kevan Roberts, with 2:51 remaining. Malachi Fowler played great, my boy. And it was bad news for Waterford because on their final drive, their great quarterback, Jax Higgins, I should say, a 1,000-yard rusher. He actually had 186 yards and threw a TD pass in the game. He left the game after getting sacked or dropped for a loss, and it didn't look really great. We don't know what happened to him, so hopefully he's okay. But he couldn't put any weight on his leg, so best wishes in. That's going to change. If he's not able to go, that's going to change Waterford's prospect in this division up very seriously. But like I say, Killingly, another wipeout win over NFA. Pete, you saw Sheehan against Law, and they looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they are who we thought they were, right? They can run the ball, Durant, they can throw the ball, O'Brien, they can catch the ball, Doherty. I mean, it was like watching, one of those good Sheehan teams. Do they have a Zach Davis, Terrence Bogan, Jordan Davis type player? No. But they have a lot of different guys who could do a lot of different things, and it was good to see them in person. I will say, Law got the ball, went right down the field, 80 yards, touchdown, and I'm saying to myself, uh-oh. But then Sheehan came back, they capitalized. Law took a lot of penalties, a lot of pretty inexperienced type penalties, jumping off sides on 4th down. Again, Law is very young. Jumping on 4th down, keeping, they allowed Sheehan to keep the drives alive. But Sheehan's defense also stepped up. They made adjustments after the first drive and kind of locked down Law the rest of the game. I'm very excited to see what Sheehan can do potentially if they get another shot at Killingly. Sheehan's really good. I mean, you look at their losses. Killingly, obviously, phenomenal. But Fairfield Prep, I mean, Sheehan almost lost a couple of starters in that game. Fairfield Prep, I think they're one of the best teams in the state. They should not be playing Sheehan. Sheehan should not be playing them. They're coming off their bus with, 90 guys. And, Sheehan's like, I joked with some of the guys from Sheehan. I'm like, well, thank God you didn't go to Prep because they would have had about 80 more freshmen dressed on their sideline to really intimidate you. But it's just, they're just 2 different schools. They're just 2 different football programs. You got guys playing 3 ways for Sheehan, and Prep doesn't have to do that, So, I look at Sheehan, they're 6-2, but I look at the rest of those teams in the division, and, Killingly, yes, other than Killingly, but I think Sheen's the second best team in that division.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. That's the matchup everyone's kind of watching. I mean, especially, hopefully Jack Higgins is okay for Waterford.
Mm-hmm.
And Wyndham is just scrappy kids, man, led by my guy.
We love Wyndham on this show.
We
love Wyndham on this show.
So. I wanted, that was one of the games I was thinking about going to see, but I went to Hand instead because it was a little bit closer. But number 5, Granby Canton falls back, but not too far. We'll see them, I'm sure. Bullard Havens had a big win over ATI, 14-13. We heard all about it from Bullard Havens. I don't think many people picked them over ATI, but good win by them. They're up at number 6. Ellington and Tolland are the last 2 teams in this division here, and neither of them have a especially easy road to finish. You know, Ellington's got Cap Prep, Weaver, and then Rockville. Cap Prep and Rockville right now, as we talk, are combined 15-0. So Ellington's got its work cut out for them. Tolland's got Bloomfield this week, and then finishes with E.O. Smith on Thanksgiving week. So, that Bloomfield, I'm going to guess it's going to be a loss there unless Tolland decides to get up and shock everybody. But now that was going to put them at least with 7-3. That might open the door for Ledyard, Foreign. Barlow's going to need to beat Newtown, which is going to get him a ton of points to even think about getting back in this race. Maybe even same for Plainville. But the rest of them, no way. I think Killingly right now is clinched. The others are pretty close. That's Class SS. Class M. Hand, Brookfield, Rockville, all unbeaten. Rockville has a pretty tough road left. They got Cromwell this week, Coggins, and Ellington. None of those are guaranteed. I mean, Coggins would be the one game you think would be more the guaranteed win, although Coggins is very well coached and is very scrappy. But those are tough games. There's no way is that a given for Rockville. Your boys, Pete, Watertown rallied to beat Holy Cross this week, and that was a pretty dominant win for them. That was a big moment because that puts them all the way up into 4, pretty much solidifying their spot here in Class M. I mean, anything about them from that game on Thursday against Holy Cross?
It was nice to see Brady Gamby doing Brady Gamby things. You know, we've seen him. We know how talented he is. I was at the Ansonia game where Ansonia did Ansonia things. It was nice to see Brady Gamby get to work and just show how dominant of a football player he can be. And, you know, you look at that Class M and you go, Watertown's sitting there at 6-2 and St. Joe's down there at 6. But other than that, you know, Brookfield Hand, you know, but I think Watertown can compete with almost every team on there. You know, the Hand, Brookfield, St. Joe's are kind of the outliers in M, but I think Watertown could, you know, depending on who they get, I think they could have a shot to go to a semifinal or a final. And
all
he's good.
We get to the semis, I say.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know, right?
Yep.
Berlin is 6-2. They get Windsor this week. So, you know, some chances for some teams below them to move up. St. Joe, as we mentioned, Danbury and Trumbull left. Law's got Shelton and Foreign. They're going to want to win both of those, Law, in order to keep their spot here because there are some teams below them that really, really want to make a move. New London is actually one of them. They had a really nice win this past week over Fitch. And it was 34-7. When really, remember, this is a team that lost to Lyman Hall, lost to Hand and Wyndham. But that Lyman Hall loss is really kind of killing New London right now. But they got Killingly now this week, and NFA obviously on Thanksgiving to wrap up. That Killingly one will probably drop them to 5-4, and they're going to need to beat NFA to have a shot there. But then number 9 in this class, Pete, North Haven has got Fairfield Prep this week at Fairfield Prep in a game that's pretty much going to decide whether the Nighthawks are going to get into the playoffs and get to defend their title, their second straight title, I should say, in Class M this time, not Double M. They remember they're in Double M the last 2 years. But very interesting for North Haven. They got Shelton, obviously, at the end there to wrap things up. And Quinnebog Valley, East Haven, Lyman Hall, probably not going to be that team there. So that's what you're looking at. Law, New London. If Law and New London fall off, man, it's going to open the door for North Haven. Even if they lose to Fairfield Prep, then you throw Quinnebog Valley in there. You know, and if East Haven wins, I think those last 2 spots are going to be pretty much a mess. Everyone else, I think, will be just fine. So that's Class M. In Class Double M, nobody is safe. Everybody, I mean, with the exception of Windsor and Newington, who are both 8-0, and I think they're, if not clinched, they're close to clinching. You got Massac at 7-1, Bristol Central at 7-1, Torrington at 7-1. Northwest United at 7-0. They still got 3 games left. All of them, they have Wilcox. Then they get Cheney and ATI to wrap things up. Neither of them are going to be easy, but very fascinating with Northwest United 6. Bunnell 6-2 at number 7 here. They get New Fairfield and Stafford. The Bulldogs should be able to win those last 2. Especially, New Fairfield just got beat by Pomprog. We should mention, shout out Pomprog for winning their first game of the year. We knew we had it in you guys, but that was big for them. But Bunnell should be able to beat those last 2 teams. And then finally, Wethersfield, a team we really have not talked about other than that one blown call in the game. They should be undefeated, but look at them. They're sitting at number 8 here, Pete. 7-1 with Farmington and your boys at the end, Newington. In a fascinating game to end their season. But
yeah, I'm kind of planning. That Thanksgiving Eve slate is pretty crazy with Wethersfield and Newington and Prep and West Haven this year. But I digress. You look at Wethersfield and you control what you can control, right? Go out and beat Farmington, right? That gets you to 8-1. Then see where you are heading into the Thanksgiving Eve game against Newington. That said, it's going to be interesting because they do play similar schedules because they are in the same division this year in the CCC. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about this division. I don't see any of these teams falling off. Torrington could possibly lose to Watertown, but that would only give them 8-2. That would put them at 8-2.
Yeah. Look, Northwest United could easily go out and lose to Cheney Tech and ATI to end the season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's still 8-2. I don't know what their points will bring. Bunnell should beat New Fairfield and Stratford. I don't know. You bring up a pretty good point. Bristol Central, it's always so interesting, right? Middletown is a good team. Some pretty good wins, some head-scratching losses. And they beat Bristol Eastern this week. I'm sorry, but they lost to Bristol Eastern this past week. And then, obviously, Bristol Central is Bristol Eastern. And that game is always so interesting where I think even a couple of years ago, Bristol Eastern was over 500. And Bristol Central was kind of like, what's going on this year? And Bristol Central won the game. So
the battle for the bell.
The battle for the bell. And Windsor, look, those 2 games, Berlin's a good team. Bloomfield's a good team. And Windsor should be 10-0. But anything could happen.
Yeah.
And then,
you're
Bethel,
right.
obviously. Bethel's going to need to win its last 2 games, and that should be enough because of those Brookfield points.
Windsor, you're right. Bloomfield and somehow Berlin knock off Windsor. They're going to fall back at 8-2. Now, 2 losses here is going to be. I think Windsor's going to be fine. They have tons of points. They beat Darien after all. That's where you get all your points. If you beat winning teams and you lose to you're getting more bang for your buck out of beating winning teams. Obviously, Massachusetts got Brookfield and Newtown left here. They could fall to 7-3, which is a lot of these teams below them are going to hope for. But I don't see. Holy Cross is down there. Hill House is down there. They got 3 games left. Notre Dame, East Haven, and Wilbur Cross. I can see Hill House winning those 3 games, and finishing 8-2 and getting a shot here. Bethel's got New Milford, and then they got Brookfield to end. So even they could finish, maybe 8-2. It's gonna be 8. This is gonna be like old school CIAC playoff points here, where 8-2 doesn't get you in. If it keeps this way, this division is fascinating. If you're going to need to help if you're like Holy Cross with 3 losses, that Massac loses twice, or Northwest United loses twice, just to even have a shot, or no chance by the way, no chance. Wethersfield, look, it is a tough division, Class Double M. You could probably say the same a little bit for the Class L division, but New Canaan, Naugatuck, Darien 7-1. Newtown still hasn't got any points. 8-0. They'll get their chance. Barlow and then Massey. They win those 2, man. They could vault all the way up. But they're currently sitting in the 4 spot. You stay undefeated, they're going to get a home game for sure. Whether it's 2, 3, or 1, who knows. Amity with a big win over Guilford. That one's basically cemented the Spartans as a playoff team this year. Nice job, George French. The guys, they wrap up with Harvard Public. They should win. Bassick, they should definitely win that. Christian Luciano had another great game. 200 yards rushing again. They have found their guy there, Pete. And the big one, though, the really big one this week was Fairfield Ludlow holding off Wilton 21-14 to move to 6-2 and ever so closer to the school's first state playoff berth. My mom will be thrilled. Well, as I didn't really mention the other week that she also doesn't think it's her school anymore because they're not the Flying Tigers. They don't have the same colors, like the Falcons. But for people who are of the 2004 and on crowd, their school's first state playoff berth. Great job by Grant Chupak and Ludlow winning that game and putting themselves in great position. And then at the bottom there, Notre Dame, West Haven, Maloney, all the way back, scratching, clawing, can't get rid of these guys. The last two teams here, 4-4, 4-4. These are the last two spots in this class. Notre Dame's got Hillhouse and Hamden. I think they should be fine. We'll see what Hillhouse brings. But Maloney, here it is, Pete. Southington, which has been up and down, certainly capable. And then Platt, and then the Stoddard Bowl. Talk about your great Thanksgiving Day games. That's going to be probably.
Are we looking at a Maloney New Canaan playoff game for the third year in a row?
Could be.
I don't know how it's going to happen, but you're looking at Maloney sitting there at 8, 2 wins. New Canaan, obviously the Darien game New Canaan has dominated the Turkey Bowl the last couple of years, more than the last couple of years against Darien. But could New Canaan fall or New Maloney jump up, and all of a sudden we're talking Lou versus Marinelli versus Frederick for the third year in a row? That would be wild. But I think Maloney's in the driver's seat. I think after everything that's happened, if you would have told the Maloney players, hey, we're 4-4, we're in the 8th spot, and we got Southington and Platt the rest of the way, I think they would take it.
They would have taken it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They'd be like, how the hell that happened?
Yeah.
But they would take it.
Yeah.
Look at the bottom of the division. Fitch lost to New London. They got Stonington and Ledyard. Both teams are Stonington's trying to get into the playoffs for the first time, I think in a long time. Since Jim Bunico was coach there, I believe. And Ledyard, falling back a bit, finally broke their 3-game losing streak. And they have a shot to kind of get into their playoffs. So, and in the battle for the sword on Thanksgiving, you got ATI also sitting back there. They have 745 points. They're going to need to win out, especially beating Northwest United. Platt has got Conard and then Maloney with a chance to move up. If Platt can beat Maloney, that puts them in a nice position probably because, with 4 losses, that'll put them up. Let's say they beat Conard this week. They got to beat Conard. Beat Conard this week. You can finish 6-4. You knock Maloney out, and maybe Fitch loses to one of those two teams. You got ATI, maybe loses to Northwest United. Jason Bruin with a chance to go to the playoffs too, Pete. That's
and could they potentially get another date with Naugatuck in the playoffs? Because they handled the Greyhounds with ease when they met a couple of years ago. So.
Going to Class Double L. Here it is, Pete. Greenwich, Fairfield Prep, Staples, West Haven. Those teams are in great shape. Obviously, some games left. Staples plays Greenwich on Thanksgiving. Fairfield Prep's got North Haven and West Haven. West Haven's got Cheshire and Fairfield Prep, so lots of teams to do. But the big result this week, Pete, we haven't barely even mentioned it, was Glastonbury. When you want to talk about Jekyll and Hyde teams, they were up, they were down, they lost to Maloney barely. Then Eric Hennessy took a personal leave of absence a couple weeks ago because of some allegations that were against him that were cleared. So he made his return, and man, maybe it was his presence, Pete, but the Guardians with a massive 49-21 victory over unbeaten New Britain, knocking them from the ranks of the unbeatens. Just a dominant performance. Connor Finnerty went 8 for 11 for 228 yards. 5 of those passes were to Luke Shannon, who caught all 5 for touchdowns. 180 yards total of touchdowns. And the Guardians, my goodness, cemented their place in the Class Double L playoffs pretty much. They got Enfield and Simsbury left. Win them both, guys, you're in. They were up 28-7 at the half and never took their foot off the gas. I'm not surprised. Glastonbury's just got a ton of guys. I thought they were good. They're just one of those teams that's been kind of tricky. Remember, they beat Manchester. That was pretty good. But what a good performance. Finally, finding the kryptonite to New Britain, which just could not get it done in this one.
Yes, the kryptonite against New Britain is being over 500. Anyway, no, Glastonbury, that's just a massive win. New Britain, they're such a good team. These two are both going to be in the mix. They're going to probably have to travel in the first round of the playoffs now, both of them. probably down to Fairfield County or New Haven County.
What else?
Yeah, but that's look, New Britain, I'm sure, wanted to win, right? Obviously. But that's a good test for them. That was a good, close game. They played in a close game with Maloney. They played in a close game with McMahon. They played in a close game with Southington. Like, they know how to play in these games, and they've won some of them, and now they've lost one. But that's only going to make them better. This is not losing this game is not the end of the world. So you take from it, you learn from it, you move forward. I mean, New Britain's going to have a chance to come down here and make a name for themselves in the playoffs, and we'll be really interested to see how they kind of turn around, because Manchester is no slouch. Manchester is a really good team with some really good players, and then obviously they have Hartford Public at the end of the year. So this Manchester game is massive. Look, New Britain, you want to be continued in the conversation, go out and beat Manchester. If you guys lose to Manchester, it's going to get real interesting real quick.
Yeah, because the next thing you know, you'll be here you are, guys, going back to Greenwich.
Yep.
If they beat Manchester, they're in. I still think they're going to get in regardless. I mean, you don't want to fall because they're going to beat Hartford Public at the end of the year, and they're 2 spots. There'll be 3 spots below them. Trumbull is a very interesting team, Pete. They got Staples and St. Joseph. None of those obviously are guaranteed for the Eagles. And then 8 Manchester. Like you said, New Britain, as big as it is for New Britain, it might be massive for Manchester. They need this one badly because they wrap up with East Hartford. But all those points will basically get Manchester back to the playoffs for the 2nd year in a row. Below them there, you're looking at Kennedy waiting in the wings. Don't think NFA is going to get there. Southington, I think they lost their shot, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, that's tough for Southington. And after that, so it is looking like if Trumbull, it's theirs for you guys if you want to win one of those games. I think that will get you in. Staples, Marsh has never beaten Staples since he left. And then St. Joseph, I think that's going to be kind of like, I mean, listen, Staples isn't invincible as St. Joseph proved. Those are going to be 2 tough games, but Trumbull's going to need to win one of them. Manchester, and then, like you said, Pete, like we said last week, Kennedy, and they're already sending us mentioning us on Twitter about how they're,
Well, I'll tell you. So I spoke to an NVL coach this week about Kennedy. And he said, "Don't be surprised if they lose to Crosby." He goes, Crosby, and I've seen Crosby. I have not seen Kennedy, but he's like, Crosby is really good. They like kind of at that level with Kennedy. Maybe the schedule kind of hasn't gone their way, but he thinks that Crosby's got a real good shot to knock off Kennedy on Thanksgiving.
I would say yes.
That is what keep an eye on.
Let's look at Kennedy's schedule real quick. They beat nobody with a winning record so far. They beat G&H, got 2 wins. Oxford, 1 win. Derby's got 3 wins, and they haven't won since.
What happened to Derby? Yeah.
Yeah, well, they got to their NVL schedule. They're meeting their NVL schedule. Woolkid's only got 1 win, and Wilby 0-8. They've lost the Waterbury Career. They lost the Holy Cross. They lost the Torrington. All those teams are nowhere near the teams that they would have to face if they got into the Class AA playoffs. Yeah. But it's a big quirk in the system when you have 6 playoff divisions. There aren't 48 good teams in the state, right? Or is that there are not 48 good teams that are playoff worthy.
It's hard enough to vote 15 in the poll.
Yeah, it's just not. It's just way too much, as you can see there, and it's all skewed. You have one division being ridiculous, where 2 wins might not get you in, whereas another one is if you finish under 500, you have a shot.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like if Trumbull goes 5-5 here, and let's say Kennedy loses to Crosby and is 6-4, I could imagine. I could see a world where Trumbull gets in over Kennedy.
Trumbull at Greenwich. Did they play him yet? They play him this? Yes, they did, and Greenwich won that game. Yeah. Hold on, they won that game. Where is that? They won that game 27-1. I'm sorry, 21-7. Excuse me.
Yeah, that was the Greenwich. That was the Greenwich post Wilton week where it was like, oh my god, I think it was like 7-0 at half or something. It was like, what is going on? But come on, Trumbull!
Yeah, Trumbull's right there. Like they just
come on, boys.
They need to. They just need to finish the game. Trumbull. I mean, maybe it's. I think Trumbull gets in. That's just me. But we'll see. So, Pete, that's where we are in this playoff standings right now. And like I said, we'll get a lot more deep into the weeds on who needs what and when as we finish this week's game, since it'll be a lot easier with only 1 or 2 left. And we'll certainly go to GameTimeCT.com to check it all out. GameTimeCT.com to check it all out. Well, Mike Fornabottle and we'll do the best we can to break it down for you. Pete, it's that time again. It's time for shout-outs! Woo! My favorite part of the day. I don't know. Nothing crazy for me, Pete, but why don't you start first?
All right, I'm going to start with my guy. Let me tell you, I spoke to an SEC coach this week as well who told me that Kadir Demley is the best defender in the state. Demley had 2.5 sacks in a 49-0 win over Brantford. Now, you're saying, why is West Haven playing Brantford? I asked that same question, but let me tell you this, and this is why he's on this list. Because your boy caught a touchdown in the 49-0 win. Kadir, my guy. Heck of a game. Sean, who do you got?
Pete, we heard all weekend from Bullard Havens, which knocked off ATI. I picked against them, and
Everyone
they
did.
wanted to make everyone to make sure we heard that we got a mouthful from them. But Josh Headley from the Tigers ran for 194 yards on 31 carries, and they won 14-13. A bunch of other heroes there, but he was the catalyst, and that big win puts him right in the thick of things in the Class SS playoff race. Pete.
All right, going to go. We talked about him a little bit, but Brady Gamby. This kid we hyped up all year. And, maybe we kind of fell off our radar a little bit, but Watertown hasn't fallen off. They're 6-2. Gamby ran for 150 yards on 3 touchdowns in a massive 28-21 win over Holy Cross. Also, your boy Gamby, pretty solid safety as well, helping lock down the Holy Cross offense in the win. Sean, who do you got?
I'm going to go stick with the text. We got to give them all the love we possibly can. Another guy, great football name, Caleb Brickhouse. He's been on here before. Ran for 154 yards and 4 touchdowns on 6 carries. He also returned a punt for a touchdown and a kickoff return for a touchdown. Have a day, kid. They beat VGW Techs. Not exactly the Giants, or not actually the Giants. Not exactly the Chiefs, but still a good performance. I'm sorry, I don't know. Just, the Giants stink. Flat Tech Brickhouse probably give them a run for their money right now. But nice job, 67-14 win. I mean, has the guy ever? I mean, how many times has the guy returned a kickoff and returned a punt for a touchdown in the same game? Is there a stat for that?
I don't know. I'll tell you. Last year, Dante Kelly did it. Jason Champagne did it. There was a couple of them last year. I remember that. I remember I did a story.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
right.
You're next.
All right, I'm going to go with, I went to the Sheehan Law game. We didn't talk about it that much, so I want to shout out Josh Durant, running back for Sheehan. He rushed for 122 yards and scored 3 touchdowns in their win, 48-20 win over John Law. Durant was just one of the guys who did their thing. O'Brien threw for 3 touchdowns. Doherty caught a really nice touchdown pass. I know he was a little banged up coming out of the prep game, so it was good to see him go. But I'm going to go with Josh Durant in this one. Sean, who do you got?
I didn't shout him out, but you did last week. We're going to get another shout out because, my goodness, what a great game he had. Aiden Bankston from Newington. There was no donuts this week. I thought for sure they were going to have donuts. No donuts this week for Newington. But Bankston ran for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns on 13 carries. He caught 4 passes for 67 yards and a score. And he returned a kickoff 87 yards for another touchdown. What? No punt return? Touchdown, Aiden. Jeez. But the Newington stayed undefeated. The Nor'easters stay undefeated, 33-7 with a win over Farmington. I can't wait for that Wethersfield game. Pete.
You talking about kick return touchdowns. I'll one-up you. My guy, Jamel Bynum, second time I'm shouting him out this year.
Yeah.
He went for 2 kick returns for a touchdown. 2! Tied the state record. I think he's the 3rd player this year.
To
return 2 kick returns for a touchdown. He did it early to give McMahon a lead against New Canaan. New Canaan scored. He took the kick return right back. He also caught a touchdown pass. So he scored all 3 touchdowns for Brian McMahon. And for good measure, he had a sack. New Canaan did win the game 50-19, but this Bynum kid can really, really play. He is on our radar for sure. He was on our radar a couple of weeks ago. But, man, when I saw on Twitter New Canaan scored to retake the lead and Bynum took the kickoff and went right down the field and gave McMahon the lead again, all about it.
Clutch.
Way to go, kid.
Clutch.
Awesome game. Sean,
that's how you do it.
Take us out.
That's how you do it, guys. You play New Canaan. You don't back down. You keep going at him.
Yeah.
That's a great job. I am glad he's on this list. Amazing job by McMahon and him. Despite the loss. And my final one, I'm going to give it to a guy who made our All-State team last year. I think he was honorable mention for us.
A big night, and Manchester needed it. Joe Mugavero caught 13 passes for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 62-yard catch to give the Red Hawks the lead for good as they knocked off Southington, basically ending their playoff hopes 26-20 in a very hard-fought game that sets up this week's winner. Well, I don't want to say loser go home, but or winner go home, but need to win to get into the Class XL playoffs here to secure it. So that was a huge performance by Mugavero, and obviously his quarterback, Sample played great as well. He's been slinging the ball this year. We have a big problem, Pete, with All-State.
I was going to say we have an All-State. We have an All-State wide receiver problem because there are a lot of good ones.
Hope you guys play defensive back.
Anybody punt? Joe, if you guys have a chance, why don't you work on some punts the next couple of weeks?
Man,
Ask Adam Pandolfi. Get you on the team.
Mugavero is a home run hitter. I saw him earlier catch the winning TD pass against Xavier, taking it inside and going up the middle. I wonder if that was this play. I didn't get to see the game, but so that is it, Pete. That is your shout-outs. I mean, there are a ton of other guys we could have mentioned, but that is your shout-outs for this week, and that is also the GameTimeCT Meat Grinder Podcast. Oh, man, we are on to Week 10, Pete. What do you think?
Whew, I can't wait. I keep looking at it. I'm already picking where I'm going Friday. I'm not going to say it because it might change, and I'd hate to say it and be wrong. But I just look at the schedule, and it's like, Thursday, Friday. Saturday's fall championship, so that's going to be a little interesting. Let's not do that going forward, having them on the same week. But we got that, and then we got a fun weekend, and then we're already you guys aren't allowed to look ahead, but we're allowed to look ahead, and we're already looking at some of these Thanksgiving games and getting prepared for all the Thanksgiving coverage and everything. And it's just a whirlwind. This month is going to fly. This month is going to fly.
I will see all of you at who aren't going to state championship games this week for all the other fall sports. I'll see all of you over at Choate for that game. Can't wait. It should be a fascinating game to watch. Lots of Connecticut players doing their things. We didn't even barely scratch the surface of other guys who are playing that game who are on from Connecticut schools. So can't wait for that. All right. So with that, we'll call it a podcast for Pete. Well, I'm Sean Patrick Bully. It's been the Meat Grinder.
Love you all.